What is up, Fence fam? So good to see you, virtually as it were, as it is. I don't know. Coming to you guys live from TChem in Kernersville. Is that right? Kernersville, North Carolina, just outside of Greensboro. So glad to have you guys here. Why are we coming live from TChem on a Friday of all things? Well, because we're doing a bit of traveling. We just wrapped up the TChem training event. I'm going to get into that here in just a second, but I want to explain a little bit about why I'm not in the studio and why I'm here on a Friday. And actually, if you guys have seen the message, we're for the next month, for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be coming to you live on Friday because we're traveling tomorrow, but I still wanted to talk to you guys. And then let's see, next week, there was a conflict somehow next week. And then we got Final Friday, and then I leave on vacation. So I don't know that the wife would like me doing a live Q&A while we're driving. We're driving down to Florida. So anyway, Fridays it is. But then after 4 Fridays, back to Saturdays, and we're off to the races. Hope you guys are doing super well. If you guys are watching, drop a comment below and say hello and let us know where you're watching from. I already got a text from the guys in the shop. Our guys there at Ozark Fence are watching. Hello, guys. And back to work, kind of, but I appreciate you watching. So watch while you work. And I don't know, it's Friday, right? And your guys' time is getting pretty. Anyway, welcome. So glad you guys are here. As always, the lives are sponsored by Stay and Seal Experts. I actually just had, what was it, 3 or 4 days to chat with Caleb and Bam Bam. I was going to call him Michael, but people probably wouldn't know who Michael is, but they do know who Bam Bam is. Great guys, great company. Guys, I support CNC Experts. They support the channel because they're legitimately good people. I use a product because it's a product that's safe for my kids and pets to be around. I just like them a whole lot. And I think if you did business with them, you'd like them a whole lot too. For more information on CNC Experts, you can check the description below. Also, running a contest for a $100 Amazon gift card. That link is in the description as well. I can click the link and it'll give you a whole lot of ways to register. So anyway, if you're up for $100 at Amazon, go ahead and check that out. All right. With all that being said, let me say hello to a few people. Stevie, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Good evening in Ireland. What is that? That's like a 6 hour. So it's late evening. Appreciate you tuning in for sure. Roger says, thought I was late. Howdy, Fence fan. Hello, Roger. Good to see you here. Well, and Stevie says, Roger, you're always here. But Stevie, to know that Roger's always here, you're always here as well. So thumbs up to you. I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I don't know how to pronounce this, but from Peru, South America, welcome. You might be our first viewer from Peru and maybe from South America to say hello. Congratulations. I really, really do appreciate it. AJ Rural says, good day, Joe. The first time live watcher, welcome. Due to the time change, rural ag fence contractor from Victoria, Australia. Fantastic. Great work on moving these to podcasts. Thanks. I appreciate it. And actually, you can thank Dan Wheeler from the Fence Industry Podcast for twisting the arm enough to make this thing go onto a podcast. So thank you. I appreciate you tuning in and saying hello. We'll actually be doing these, like I said, for the next 4 weeks at this time on Fridays. So hope to see you around a little bit. Stevie says, and I cannot confirm. I have someone here that can confirm this, but it says TChem is short for Tegrachem. Is that right? Yeah, okay. Which in fairness is a bit of a mouthful. We all just learned something right now. I appreciate you sharing that. Oh, well, if I would just read the sign, then I would know. Well, okay. Fair enough. I was actually, the reason I didn't read the sign, so we're actually in their showroom. I'm very impressed by how the showroom's laid out. I'm taking notes on what our future showroom might look like. All right, guys. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up Brad from TChem to talk a little bit about the event, and maybe a little bit about why throw events like this and like the benefit from TChem, because it is a substantial investment of resources, of time, of money.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Joe, for having me on.
Course,
Thanks for being here at TChem.
course.
Yeah, events are challenging. It's we get to the end of it, and I'm just smashed today. So we're just we're taking it easy. The guys still had to work and do deliveries today and all that, but
Sure.
events are important. And one of our big cultural things here is we believe that our success only happens when our customers are successful, when our contractors are successful. So by having an event, the whole purpose is to bring them education and help, bring experts to them, bring training to them, so they can go out in the field and make more money and be more successful at what they're doing. Because ultimately, if they're not successful, we're not in business.
Well, it's a Zig Ziglar quote. I talk about it a lot. Help others get what they want, and they'll help you get what you want.
Exactly
what you guys are doing.
So that's what we've been doing this week, and that's why we had you here. Because
well, I appreciate that, but I appreciate being a part of this, because I sat in the back and I was a student for just as much as everyone else was. So it's kind of a win-win. So I really do hope that I brought value to folks, but also I appreciate being involved with it, so that I can sit in the back and be a student.
Yeah. I think everybody picked up notes. It was so cool the other night. We sat down to dinner, and I don't know if the names will mean anything to anybody, but we had Matt and Pat there at dinner, and Pat's like, "Oh my goodness, you blew my mind today." And it's like to hear that that's going on, and then the feedback that we get from people, and they're like, "This has been so valuable, and I have all these things I can take back to my business." And
fantastic.
That's just it makes all the work, all the things we're doing worthwhile.
Right. Well, I've got to tell you, so we go to a fair amount of these events over the course of the last several years. Your guys' event was really well done. You could tell that you guys put in a tremendous amount of groundwork ahead of time to make it seemed effortless. Now, I absolutely understand that it was not, but it felt like it. And I think that's a testament to you and your team on how well you put that event together.
Well, we have an amazing team here at TChem. And when they were under pressure, getting this thing together in the last minute, I mean, we just saw everybody pull together, and it's down to each and every member of our team. I mean, I'm just playing a role in it. I'm just coming up with these ridiculous ideas of what we're going to pull off, but the whole team together, I mean, they make it happen. And we had great supporters like you and Ron and Pat and Matt and Caleb. I mean, coming out and just really elevating the whole thing. So team effort.
Yep, that's right. And like you said, the whole team kind of came together and gelled immediately. I've worked with a few of the speakers in speaking at different events, and it was nice to see everyone just gel almost immediately, because there's some folks like Matt hadn't really met Ron and Trudy from the Power Wash side, but to see them kind of mesh instantly, I think it's a testament to you for putting kind of the right people together in the same room too.
Well, our strategy was simple. And I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday. It was, how do we get the best people who bring the most value here?
Sure.
And that was a strategy is who can we get here that if they got here and someone heard them, they would get some value out of it.
Yeah.
The rest of it, I think we just got blessed, lucky, whatever, that people gelled and that all that worked together. I wish I could say that was planned, but I think it was just, it was good fortune, because we had good people. When you bring good people together, good business owners. There's one thing I've noticed in watching you and Caleb and these other guys is there's an attitude of hey, if I can make my industry better, if I can help other people. I think when you get a lot of people like that in a room, they just naturally gel.
They do. And here's the thing: is obviously I'm from the fencing industry. We've got Caleb from the fence staining, wood cleaning, professional wood care industry. We had power washers all in one room, and at first glance, when you think about it, you're like, what do these three things have to do with each other, these three industries? But one of the things I talk about is 80% of the business is the same. Now, that 20% is what makes us different. Staining, fencing, power washing, that sort of thing. But that 80% of the business is the same. It's running a profitable business that's organized correctly, that sort of thing. So I think when you look at it through that lens, an event that encompasses all these things makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. We talk about the 80-20 rule and all that. And one of the misconceptions that I hope to break when we do events like this and training like this is this belief that 20% that makes us different is where we find our success. It's that 20% of technical knowledge that I have. Those, we talked about it yesterday, those secrets.
Yes. Yeah.
There are no secrets, you know? And really where your success is found is in that place where we're similar.
Yeah.
The business practices, the things that we do with our team, the cultures we build, that's where success is. So I was hoping to kind of break that. And
Sure.
then the other benefit of having Lacrosse there is you might have a washing business that's really successful in the summer, but you might need some other things you can do in other
Yeah.
times of the year, or
Absolutely.
find ways to get commercial work. So maybe you should bring some staining into your business to
Yep.
fill it up. Maybe, you know,
Yep.
we have people that are doing like concrete and paver sealing. You might not
Yeah.
be doing that, but you got to look at different things you can do in your business to like
Absolutely.
make it work for you.
Well, and you know, my family's business, our business is primarily a fencing company, but we found a lot of success going into fence staining. It was something that our customers were asking us for, but for a lot of years, we just assumed it was entirely different. Like, no, we build fence. We don't maintain fence. We don't do
Yeah.
any of that. But then we started staining fence. And then when we were staining fence, we had to clean the fence. So we built out a trailer to clean the fence. And then we realized, well, the same equipment to clean the fence can also clean the driveway, the house, the roof, the whole thing. And from that point of view, it's a pretty easy procession to get from building a fence to cleaning a driveway. It's not something you would normally think of, but when the dominoes start falling, they all kind of fall together.
Yeah, you know, one thing that we heard, and we had a guy here, Pat Clark, he was talking a lot about sales and maximizing how what you do in a job is the second sale with a customer is way easier than going out and getting another customer for a first sale.
Absolutely. So that's the thing. So the cost of bringing that customer on, you get 90% of the cost in the beginning. Now I say 90% because there's still some follow-up to get to that second sale to maintain the relationship, but it's like launching a rocket into outer space. 90% of the energy to get this rocket to the moon is getting out of the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 10% is just getting there and coming back. Same sort of thing.
Exactly.
You got to exude a lot of energy to get that person into your organization, into your relationship sphere. But then once they're there, it's a pretty low cost to maintain that relationship.
Yeah.
For us, that's kind of where the staining and the cleaning came. Like we expended all this energy to bring them in to build them a fence. It's going to be a pretty easy conversation to say, hey, while we're here, can we talk about staining? Also, the driveway we just walked across, pretty dirty. Would you mind if I gave you a number to clean that up while we're in the neighborhood anyway? 90% to get there. And then after that, it's just maintaining it.
Exactly. And you have to find the right fit for you.
Right.
One thing that was really satisfying is, you know, Caleb's there. And I've talked to a lot of power washing guys. You know,
Sure.
We had a lot of power washing guys in the audience. And they're like, I'd never stain. Never, ever, ever. And Caleb gives his presentation. At the end, we said, well, how many of you has this changed your mind? And I was expecting like maybe 2-3 hands. Half the room was like, you know, and how cool is that to open somebody's mind to something new?
Absolutely. Well, I think that's probably a testament to the product too.
Yeah.
Once you see it go on, so if you haven't seen Caleb's demonstration, he'll turn the nozzle around to where it's just a stream of stain. And on the first presentation, he spelled TChem on the fence. He's like, now, if you've ever stained a fence, you're having a nightmare right now because that's not going to come off. Like you're not going to fix it. If it were any other stain, you would have to strip it and start over. Well, and then the point is, turns the nozzle around, lets some people that have never stained before stain the fence a little bit, and then he fixed it. And at the end, when it's dry, beautiful, level. You couldn't see TChem. He sprayed it sideways, which like made me cringe.
Yeah.
I've seen this and it made me cringe a little bit. But then in the end, it was fixed.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to show guys that haven't stained that it's not, you don't want to call it foolproof. I mean, I'm sure there's some ways you could screw it up, but it's kind of like blowing with bumpers. They're going to help you get down there and it's going to look really good. Same thing with he had sprayed over some Woodgate hardware, which is something that if you sprayed it with a different stain, you'd really have to get in there and scrub, and you might end up replacing those hinges.
Right.
Well, with his, he just wipes it with a rag and says, okay, well, what next? I think that's really, once guys see that, it clicks, and they say, okay, well, I think I could do it, or I'm at least willing to try.
Well, you know, I heard a guy actually say, he said, you helped me see something so it's not as scary as I thought it was.
You know, let's talk about events in general, because we had this conversation at dinner last night where from a company's perspective, you want to put the thing in the hands of the people that are going to buy it so they can test it, right? So whether we're talking about surface cleaners, power washers, the cleaning chemicals, you need to put it in their hands so that they can try it and see it and feel it and make sure that it's not as scary as they think it's going to be, which is what this event also accomplished.
Yes. Yeah. So I think, being at the event, it's from our company point of view, yeah, they get to try stuff out. They get to see something, they get to see how products work. One thing that's like my philosophy on events is, as a company, I don't want to go into it with like, we're here and I'm going to show you all the things you need to buy, I think there's enough of that out there. Right. I'm a firm believer that if we went in and the people walked away and they're like, man, my life's going to be a little bit easier now.
Sure.
I know some things that are going to make me more successful now. And if we keep doing that when they need something, they'll come back to us when the time is right and the fit is right.
Because they know you have the answers and that you have the equipment. In my talk yesterday, one thing I talked about is leading with education. Give your clients, your customers, so much information, so much education that they make the buying decision for themselves. Now, you hope that they do the buying with you, right? Yeah. But you just arm them with enough information. They don't want to be sold. They want to make an educated buying decision. But you can also take that and apply it to your situation, where I've been to some shows, not recently, but been to some shows where it was more like a QVC show, where they're going to look at this thing. Now, this is for sale right over there for $9.99. Go see it right now. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you about this thing. This is for sale for $10.99. Mm-hmm. It's for sale right over here. It's like, well, this is more like a sales pitch. This isn't like an educational experience. And so that's not what we're talking about. But what you did was you brought in trainers and charged nothing to the audience to join, to teach them how to use it properly, to answer questions. And like you said, to take a little bit of the scary out of it as well, with the hopes of, hey, by the way, this is something that we offer you, right? That if you want to, we gave you all the education. If you would like to purchase it, you can purchase it from us. And also, it kind of goes without saying that we have access to the answers too. If I don't have the answer for you on this, I can call Trudy or I can call Ron or Caleb and have an answer for you really quickly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I believe, in that old saying, I think people know the cliche that for people to do business with you, they have to know, like, and trust you. Right. And, people do business with people.
Yeah.
So the event makes TChem not a business, but it's a group of people that you meet, and then they get to know us. Mm-hmm. We exist. Here we are.
Yeah.
I hope that they liked us, afterwards, and I believe that the team as a whole makes such a great impression on people.
Absolutely.
But then they can trust us because they know that we're there to help them.
Right.
So I think if we accomplish that, then it's like, okay, of course, they're a store. They have the chemical I need. They have the parts I need. They understand how to fix the machines and the extra special tools that we need. And that's kind of a given, but they need to know that we're not just trying to, like, get them out of their money, you know? And I think that that's important because you see it all the time. It's like, oh yeah, well, you need this whole wall of chemical, or you need the $10,000 machine, when the reality, maybe the $3,000 one would do.
I think we've all been in a store like that.
Yeah.
Where you walk in and you ask about the $3,000 machine. It's like, well, are you sure that's the one you want? I mean, we could give it to you, but we really have this one. And I'm going to spend a lot of time trying to talk you into that one. Well, I think by coming to the event, they understand that's not who you guys are.
Yeah.
Right. That you're giving all of this value away for free, that they know if they come in and they ask for a certain thing that you guys are going to say, absolutely. Now, if they had questions, team's there to help.
Yeah.
Let me pause for a second and talk about your team, because I said this to you privately last night, but I'd like to say it publicly, that your guys' team is top notch.
Oh, thank you.
They are fantastic. And this is a relevant conversation because you guys have a power washer that's like mega on wheels. Like, this thing's massive. And I was looking at this, I was like, I don't know what this thing does, but it looks like it does a lot of it. Like, whatever it is, it can do a ton. And to one of your guys' credit is they knew I wasn't a buyer. And I said that, I was like, right up front, like, I can't fit this thing in my carry-on, so I can't go home with it.
Yeah.
But could you walk me through what it does? He spent probably half an hour just telling to me all about what that thing does, knowing that I wasn't a customer. Like, there is no chance of there being a sale, but he went out of his way to make sure I understand exactly what that thing did and the benefits of it. I'm like, man, I wish I lived closer, because it would be nice to interact with you guys on a pretty regular basis. So I say that to say, testament to your team.
Well, thank you.
That you are obviously creating a culture that leads with education and knowledge, and then asking for a sale later on down the road. I think that's huge.
Well, I sincerely appreciate it. That's the highest praise that we could get. We have great team members who are, they're passionate about what they do.
Sure.
These guys have a lot of knowledge in what we do, and it really comes from the leadership. I've been brought into this group to come and bring my perspective on value.
Sure.
Our company was founded by John 40 years ago, based on this whole thing that like people were being sold junk, they didn't know, so I'm gonna fix it.
Yep.
So he invented the chemicals. He's like, this is junk, so I'm gonna make something better because I can't stand junk. And he'd see people come in and they were doing business the wrong way and they didn't understand. She said, well, I'm gonna teach you how to fix this, how to not be in this position, how to not waste this, how to not, put yourself out of business. Washing could be a seasonal business. And so you see a lot of people come in and a lot of people go out.
Yeah.
So he's like, no, I'm going to show you how not to do that. And so that has just filtered down through Jonathan. And then you see it all through our whole team of techs and different people on our team that's just kind of perpetuated through. So I just get to help carry that torch, but it is something that's been baked into since the beginning.
And it shows. It really does show. And I say this all the time because I really want it to like resonate and sink in, but you guys lived the motto of help others and then they will help you. Helping them figure out, let's not make this a seasonal business. Knowing that on the back end, that might also help the business.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, let's help the contractor. This guy, without this guy, we are one less person to do business with. So let's help him, form him, and show him the ways. And then if he needs some chemicals, he knows we're here anyway.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not a common sales philosophy currently. Right? It is, show him the sales, kind of shove on him the chemicals that we want to sell because we've got a little bit higher margin in this other thing. So let's teach him how to use that maybe instead of I'm going to just teach you how to run a business. And then if we can help you, please let us know. Well, I think that's a winning philosophy.
I tell you what, it's really funny. Like when we talk about it, we do it for the right reasons, but I can't say that the benefit isn't there. It's not in the long run. In the long run, it's really good to think like that.
Absolutely.
Because we get loyal customers who tell other people about us. And then we get the joy of, I think of guys like Donnie and Mark and Austin, who when they first started working with TChem, they were getting started. And today they're running like, close to or more than 7-figure businesses.
Fantastic.
In the wash business. And they're finding all this success. And I know that they did it, but we got to play a little part in it.
Sure. You had a role in that.
Yeah.
Now, to your point, they went and built the business and did the work.
They did the work.
But you guys got to help kind of on behind the scenes and I'm sure with advice and kind of tips and tricks and that sort of thing. And obviously making this available to them as well.
Yeah. So
that's I can't say it enough. This is going to seem like a bragging session on TChem, but I really got to know you guys over the last several days. And you and I have talked for a while before that, but I got to see the team. And I got to see your company and what you're about. When I talked with you, I immediately kind of had that feeling of these are good people, which is why ultimately I came. But then once I was here, I was so glad I came because I got to experience your guys' culture. That's my favorite part of visiting different companies is to see how different people apply. We talk about these things and principles a lot, but it's interesting to see how everyone applies them. Like I said, your guys' event that you threw this week was top notch. And I think it is leading with that example of providing value, providing education, knowing that if you help elevate them, if you just shrewdly look at the numbers, it still works out.
It does.
Now, I've talked with you enough to kind of feel where your heart's at, and it's a lot of places like mine where I can use that to justify if I need to, but really it makes your heart warm knowing that you have an impact on these contractors, which then has an impact on their families, their team members' families. That's the neat thing for me is to see how far that help can spread.
One of the things that I believe is really, really important is knowing why you exist, who you are as a company and where you're headed.
Sure.
And for me and for Jonathan and for John, it absolutely has to include impact. And I know that's like cliche. I want to make an impact, but if it doesn't include impact in people's lives and all we're doing is just hawking chemicals and parts and machines and doing service work and all this stuff, it'd be hard to be passionate about. But when I know that like we're doing it because we're going to make an impact in our community and the lives of our contractors, that gets us out of bed.
Absolutely. Let's take a minute and say hello to a few people, and then I've got another something to talk to you about. I think it would be an interesting conversation. All right. So we said hello to Stevie and Roger. We said hello to Peru. Welcome again. In Australia. All right. Here we go. The kid says, hello, Woodward, Oklahoma. Hello, Oklahoma. So not necessarily a neighbor of me right now, but when we get home to Missouri tomorrow, we will once again be neighbors. So, hello, neighbor. Finn's question says, better to go 2 foot or 2.5 foot on post, or does it make a difference? It does make a difference. So the deeper the post goes, the more structurally sound it will be, right? The more leverage it has to hold this fence up. Now, I'm not super familiar with Peru and the frost depths involved. You'd want to make sure that you get it at least 6 inches below the frost depth. I have to think, and this could be incorrect, but I have to think that you have a fairly tropical climate. Frost depth might not be a thing, but check frost depth. 2.5 foot would be my recommendation. Here in the United States, we have ASTM standards, which are basically a set of standards that talks about how to properly build fence. And they would call for that 2.5 foot post over the 2 foot post. So one guy's opinion, but I would lead you in the direction of 2.5 foot post. Also, am I going overboard to use a 6x6 on the post for my gates? No. So when we were still using wood posts on our gates, we would use 6x6. The idea being that there was more mass involved in the post, so it was less likely to rotate, to warp and twist, that sort of thing. However, a while ago, kind of foggy on the dates, but for the last several years, we've gone to using a steel post on the gates, because even those 6x6s, we would still see those twists, warp and crack. Steel posts, luckily, don't do any of that. So we went to a 2.5 inch heavy wall, a 40 weight post. We've had a lot of good success with that over the 6x6. But if the question is, am I going overboard? Not at all. I would, if you're going to use a wood post, I would recommend, I think you're on the right track to use a 6x6. AJ says, been a listener to Dan Wheeler too. Fantastic. He does a great job. I agree. Dry set all the way. Well, that's where you and Dan differ, because Dan would have a word or two about the dry setting. I like to be Switzerland. I'm neutral. If you ask me, I wet set. But I absolutely understand that dry set has its place in the world. Not that I use concrete, just want to get in on the debate. Well, yeah, as an ag professional, you guys typically drive the post a lot more, which I'm absolutely jealous of. I watched videos of fence post driving. I wish we could. We tried it. We bought the equipment and we gave it a shot. And unfortunately, a little bit too much rock in our area to. I also understand. I know the comments are coming that, well, if you use like an Evo machine, you can drive through rock. Totally get it. I understand. I've seen people drive posts in Colorado, but the chance of me getting that piece of equipment in a residential yard, a little bit more slim. Anyway, I'm jealous of your guys' ability to drive posts. Guys, if you have questions or comments, drop them in the comments below. We're going to go for an hour because one thing, so TChem was nice enough to open up their showroom after hours to let me come in and do this. And I understand everyone has a family. So we're going to do it for an hour, but which means we've got about 25 more minutes. So if you have questions or comments, drop those in the comments below. All right. So I had a thought.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to remember that thought because I got to these and then I forgot. Where were we going with this? We talked about incredible team leading with education, which I think is hugely important. I don't know where I was going. I should have said where I was going, and then Braden's great at keeping me on track because my mind like just goes in all sorts of different directions. No idea. Maybe it'll come back to me. It has come back to me. So let's talk for a second. And this is coming from a guy who sells fence fittings online. I also sell them in a brick and mortar store. We were talking about educating customers and being there to support them. I think it's worth talking about that one of the values or one of the value propositions you guys offer is being available in person, right? Actually having an inventory to pull from rather than, let's be honest, you can find almost anything in the world a little bit less expensive online. There's always someone willing to sell it a little bit cheaper. I see it on fence fittings. I'm not the cheapest fittings provider on the internet. But one of the things I think that we sell on is being available to ask questions.
Yeah.
So I'm asking a guy that we're standing in your showroom, so I know it's a little bit biased, but where do you stand on online sales versus in-person sales?
Well, Braden, do me a favor. Hand me 2 of those red turbo tips down there.
Oh, I remember this conversation from last night.
I think this is good. And these may or may not be different. But you can see like these 2 right here. So these are turbo tips for a pressure washer, right? They look the same. They're red, right? There's blue ones over there. There's red ones over there.
Yep.
They're shaped the same. I mean, when you look at them, they have the same kind of fittings, the same brass in the back. So what could be different about them? But if you read the printing and the brass on the back, and these may be the same size, there's a couple different sizes over there. I actually don't think they are. They're different sizes. So they have different use cases. And so what we find is, and I always equate this, I'm a car guy. You go to an online auto parts thing.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
unless you have like schematics and you like reading schematics and really specifics, the difference from one part to the next, they might look the same, they might seem the same, but what you need for the job may be different.
Wildly different.
And so I think one of the advantages and what we see in the store is we got guys, and Steve was just in here.
Yeah.
He was afraid he was going to get called up here. So he bolted the other way.
He saw the lights. He's like, well, this isn't what I'm here for.
But you could come in and say, this is my machine. This is my setup.
Yeah.
This is how much hose I have. This is the size things I use. And then know which one fits your application.
Well, here's a good example of that too from dinner last night where we were talking about, a nozzle might say it's 8 gallons a minute, and you're saying, hey, I've got an 8 gallon a minute machine. But what that doesn't take into account is the PSI of the machine. So if you're running, and I forget the example, keep in mind I'm a fence guy, but I believe it was that if you had a 4,000 PSI machine at 8 gallons a minute, the chart might say you actually need probably a 10 gallon a minute nozzle to have the correct flow coming out of it, which is something that I would be guilty of this. I would say I have 8 gallons a minute. I got a nozzle that says 8 gallons a minute. These 2 things go together, and I'd probably end up doing some damage with it because if I'd ordered it online, I wouldn't know. I don't have that experience.
Yeah, I think there's a need for that. So we find that that's one of the ways we can help people. They come in and we can kind of guide them on what they need. The other thing is, I don't know your whole audience too well, but if you have contractors in there, when you're in the day-to-day of it, a lot of times you need something now. And even though there's some same-day Amazon out there, you're probably not getting parts like this same day on Amazon.
Right. No.
Right.
Yeah.
So having a place local, you can walk in and you're like, this is the problem. This broke. Can you help me? We probably have the part.
Yeah.
And we also have the guys out there. We have experts out there who can come in, get a wrench out, and kind of help you diagnose, fix, get what you need.
And maybe say, hey, the reason that broke is it's not quite the right thing, right? Like I see what you're doing. You did brass. You really need a stainless, right? Because it corroded or whatever the situation. You need someone with that knowledge. Whereas if I'm ordering online, I go, okay, this is the thing. That looks like this thing. It must work. And it might, but I'm going to be in this same mess moving forward. Whereas if I'd come in and talk to a professional, got the stainless, it might last significantly longer.
Exactly. So I think there's a need for that. There's obviously some things we do in person that you can't do online.
Sure.
We repair machines. We build. So like, I've got a trailer and I'm like, I got 2 hose reels, but if I had a third, I'd be saving 30 minutes on a job.
Yep.
Online, you're not going to be able to order. You can't order that rebuilt for you. So we custom fab it. When your machine needs servicing or it breaks, we can fix it. When you need fresh bleach, we'll pump it into your container. So there's some things that have to be done in person. I'm all for online. If possible, I buy it on Amazon. Just because it's easy. I mean, I totally get that. We do find that there is a need in professional contractor sales to have that presence.
And also, and it's doing in-person business with a professional in the industry. And what I mean by that is, so for us, sometimes I don't want to say compete, but they have the option of going to a big box store, right, to buy fence fittings. And as long as it fits in a very narrow category, as long as it's totally standard, they've got it. But again, if you ask any sort of questions, you get kind of a glazed over look and you're like, ugh, let me see if it's in my handheld device. And if it's not in the handheld device, they don't know. Again, fence guy, so forgive me, but I was looking to replace one of our guys lost one of the nozzles, one of the tips, and I knew it was a white tip. And so I knew it was a white tip. And so I go to Northern Tool. I'm like, okay, I need a white tip. Well, you know good and well, those white tips have all different orifice sizes. So I'm looking at those things going, oh man, okay. So these are all white. I don't know.
Yeah, there's what, 15 or 20 of those sizes right behind us over here.
Right. And I asked the gentleman there, and I said, okay, this is the machine I have. I need a white tip. And he basically did the same thing. He's like, wow, boy, there's a lot of them, huh? Like, yeah, that's why I asked you about it. They're all different. He's like, oh, do you know what size your other one was? Well, if I knew that, I would have just gone and gotten it. But and I don't mean to say anything negative about that particular store, but it illustrates the point that there's also value that you can't factor into the price tag of being able to have that experience, right? I was saying, and the tip we were using might have been not even properly sized to that machine anyway. So if I brought one in to try to replace it, now I ended up going on Google and Googling it and like eventually going down the rabbit hole long enough. It took me probably an hour of sitting in Northern Tool, like Googling to find the right size. Whereas if we'd had a store similar to yours in our area, we could have just gone in and said, guys, this is the machine. This is the gallons per minute. This is the PSI. You guys probably look at a chart or just know and say, okay, you need this one. Mm-hmm. Save me, 55 minutes of going through Google trying to find the answer. I think that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're saying of, in the final, this is going to feel like I'm just like propping up TCAM here, but I'm actually also talking about supporting your guys' local, local professional, because it's also keeping your money local in the community, or as local as possible in the community, because you guys as a local company likely make local buying decisions too where possible. I mean, that's something that we do obviously we employ people from our community. We pay taxes in our local community. We support the community that we operate in.
Yeah.
Where online certainly doesn't, right? The money gets shipped off to wherever those folks are at. But then even the big box stores locally, some of the money stays local. I mean, they hire local folks to work in the stores, but largely all the money goes out of the community. So that'd be probably the last thing I talk about is by doing business with a local professional, you're also keeping your money locally.
Yeah. I mean, not only does a local business employ other people locally, and and I'm just a believer, like you're gonna maybe go down that rabbit hole. I think small business is the backbone of our economy, and it employs people locally, and that's important to support. Absolutely. But even like and I think we have some of the machines we're making over there. Yep. Even those skids we're using are fabricated locally. Perfect. And so there is a support in that is, one of our values in our mission is to make an impact in our community. And we don't just do that with what we sell, we do it with how we do business too. So I'm absolutely with you. And we're not the only ones. It's not just TCAM.
No.
There's local businesses in your neighborhood, in your neck of the woods, where y'all live, that by supporting them, you're doing that same thing. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So
very good. Very good. If people want to get a hold of TCAM, so say let me ask this, what's your guys' service area, or where do you generally find that your clients come from? Is there a radius or?
So when we talk about delivery, I would say, and I could get myself in a lot of trouble here, but maybe like 30, 40 mile radius, sure. We do some delivery and outbound work but we have guys that come in from as far as maybe like 3 hours away.
That was what I was just thinking when I was talking to guys at the event yesterday and the day before. It seemed like you guys have a pretty far reach, because these are guys that I was talking to one gentleman that used Stainless Steel Expert Stain because they bought it from you, and then they wound up at the event talking to Caleb, but they were from several hours away. So okay, so these people are really traveling to come in and find the local solution too.
it goes back to something I said earlier. People want to do business with people they like,
Yeah.
and they trust, and we hear it. There are definitely companies that exist in every industry and every whatever, and we hear about it, and they're like, I did business with so and so,
Sure.
and they're a real fill in the blank, right?
Right.
And
right.
So I drive 3 hours to come do business with you because I'm not going to do business with them. And so yeah, I think there's a need for that. I think there's less and less local businesses that provide that professional support, and they're few and far between. Part of our vision is being local in more communities. So that's stay tuned if you're you're in the region of the United States that we're in. We're growing in that direction because we know we see these communities and people are like, could you come here? Because there's no one here to do this. And that's part of our vision is to go be that in other places.
Well, and save them a 4 to 6 hour round trip.
You know what? I think that would work for everybody, right?
Yeah, right. It'd be a win-win for sure. Now let's also talk so I'll be honest. So part of the conversation we had last night was I was saying I would love to bring this level of service to our community because there's not really a good local professional option for the pressure water. Like I said, I went to Northern Tool to try to find a replacement tip because there wasn't a local professional I could rely on. One of the things you had told me about was that a really important piece of your business is the service side. Because can we talk for a few minutes about the service side of the business? Because that was something I thought it made sense once you had said it, but talk to me about the service side.
Yeah, so our business, and I have to kind of give credit to Jonathan for this, but when he came in, Jonathan is the son of John. So if you guys can put all that together, when he came in, he saw that there was this massive need in service, and so we built our business around having an attitude that will work on anything. Now, we appreciate if our clients don't bring us like their lawnmowers because it's outside of scope, but one of the things that happens in service is companies will be like, we only work on Hondas.
Sure.
We only work on Simpson because that's what we sell. And sorry, you didn't buy this here. Good luck.
We got a brand new one we'd sell you though.
So and we made it a policy we work on anything.
Fantastic.
And so here in shop, we have several amazing techs who know these things inside and out. And so we'll take any machine and we'll do everything from your basic service work all the way to rebuilds and then custom fabrications. We do a lot of build out the custom truck bed rig or the custom, we've done box trucks. We do a lot of custom trailer rigs, or you already have one and you're like, I want to take this thing to the next level. And then we'll kind of fab that up for you too.
Fantastic. So upgrade existing setups, that sort of thing.
And then there's a side of our business that's not as relevant to contractors, but we do on-site industrial service work as well.
Okay.
So in boiler facilities or heavy equipment facilities that have pressure washers, they're not mobile, they're stationary on site. We'll go in and do work there as well.
Fantastic. So really kind of a well-rounded machine here.
Yeah.
And that you guys can sell to the public, sell to other contractors, service their machines, which I wish there was a place in my market that would service these things so we could not have to service them, because again, I'm a fence guy. So I'm like looking through the manual. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do and how am I supposed to do it? So having a service center would be fantastic in our area. But also, so that's interesting too, the on-site industrial. So if they can't bring it to you guys, if it's big and unwieldy or built into place, you guys also service that on site? Yeah.
So John was a boiler engineer. So he's in the Merchant Marine. That's his background. So we have a lot of roots in that. So, we go work in some of the facilities here that do that on site. And there's a need for it. And with every high skilled trade, it's only less and less people that are doing it. So we're filling a need there in the marketplace. And, I think anybody that's young, and I know that's not what this was live's about, but that younger audience, you're like, what should I do? I do some research into skilled trades because the need is enormous. And I don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now when we have some guys here. We're like, if we didn't have them, who do you go out and hire? You don't just put the ad on Indeed and get one of these guys,
I can tell you that's true. Is trying to hire skilled positions. What we found is you really just have to hire someone that's trainable and then spend a few years building them up into the professional. Now we're much the same way, where we've got a team where you take one team member out and you're pretty stuck, right? Because everyone has something that they're specialized in, and you can't, like you said, you can't put that ad out and find someone to step in those boots the next day. You really have to find someone and train them and mold them into your ideal team member.
Exactly.
Let's see. I had another thought too. So let's talk about the chemicals.
Okay.
Because the chemicals are a big part of what you guys do too. Is that right?
Yeah.
So one, I was impressed. So I actually came in the back way, I think. So I came in from up where the chemical storage and Jonathan was loading up actually a bunch of 55-gallon drums. I was very impressed with I'm a fence guy, I don't know the words, but you guys have these bulk containers that then you can fill the smaller containers. So like a 5-gallon bucket was under them ready to go, but also you guys have like 1-gallon containers too. Is that right?
That's
the
right.
handouts are those a gallon?
Yeah, the gallons, 5s, drums, and then with things like we also do totes on-site totes. So we'll go supply a place with the tote and fill their tote.
Fantastic.
And then with like bleach, guys will come in and they have the container on their truck, and we'll just pump into that container.
Very good.
Because that's what works for them. And some people, I don't do have as much interface with that, but I've seen many sizes of containers, even in my experience up here. Some people they just need a bucket of bleach.
Yeah.
But
right.
Some guys they want 100 gallons.
Sure.
And so we do a gamut of that, but we do blend chemical here. We've got a full line of chemicals. Our roots we're in Fleet Wash.
Okay.
With chemicals. So we got, I'm looking at it standing here, but we have the 704 truck wash, and then we have a couple of aluminum products, a brightener and a polish product. One's a little bit nicer than the other.
So that's one thing I was going to ask too. So I didn't get a chance. So you guys have like the 250 and the 255. Both of them are aluminum cleaners. What is the difference in those? And please talk to me like I'm a fence guy.
So I heard somebody say the other day, and I don't know who says this on the team, but they said one of them is like the O if you're OG, the other one's 5 for like a 5-year-old. So
okay. So I would want the 5.
Yeah,
I would want the 5.
It depends on what you put them on. If you put brightener on the wrong kind of aluminum, you end up dulling it, right?
Okay.
So you have that, and we have degreasers. We have our two strengths of degreaser that we do. One is a low foam for floor cleaning. The other is a industrial strength degreaser concentrate. You see that used. It gets used in pressure washing cleaning.
Sure.
And then obviously like a heavy equipment, you have heavy equipment that grease everything to keep it working. Well, when you go to work on it, you got to get the grease off to work on it. So they get used in that. We have some asphalt cleaner and remover products. That get used when they clean out the beds of dump trucks when they pave. So we've got that. It's a very, very amazing product. Jonathan has told me some stories of stuff that is like baked on, and you put that on and work it, and it'll just absolutely get rid of it. I know I'm missing a couple of things. Of course, we have our house wash mixes, our surfactants, which are really common. So people take bleach, they add in a surfactant, soap, detergent in it that foams it up a little bit, and then they spray that.
Yeah, because I saw you guys have like a house wash formula, but also like a roof formula as well.
And the roof formula just has more surfactant in it.
Yeah.
So we call it hangout. The idea is on a roof that you would just spray it on and then you just walk away, and then the rain washes it off.
Okay.
So it's designed to stay on the roof long enough to work, and then when the rain washes it off, the roof's clean.
It's done. Fantastic. So where did that side come from? Because you said that John came from the Boilermaker, right? So where does the chemical come in?
We have he's like a mad scientist. He's like the alchemist here. He was doing when he just went out on his own. He started making chemical like in his garage. While he was still had a job doing the other. And he just kind of figured that out. So he started doing it on the side, and he said, well, the chemical people were buying was garbage. And then he did some fleet washing at one point, so he made his own stuff for it.
Okay.
It was really kind of like one need at a time that he saw out there that he just.
So it sounds like he's like the ultimate entrepreneur in that. So I feel like entrepreneurs have a little bit of like a bug, right, of filling needs. I have that problem where I'm looking at something, I'm going, man, there's a need there, and I bet I could fix it. And then the other part of me says, you're not even in that industry. Like, don't stay in your lane, Joe. You got too many irons in the fire anyway. But it sounds like he's the same way, where he kind of solved his own problems.
That's exactly right. And he is one of those guys that he's so smart and able to do things that I think he really enjoys solving the next problem.
I bet.
And so then that's where, Jonathan comes in, where I come in.
Sure.
Jonathan is amazing at building some systems around it so that we can turn that solution into something. And then,
Sure.
I'm the one that talks a lot, I'm on here doing the video,
right,
to evangelize it out to the world. So it's like, it's a really cool mix. And
pretty effective mix. Pretty effective mix. Absolutely. So, all right, let's do comments real quick, because I just saw somebody pop up. Well, okay. So Peru says I'll have 14-foot wide, 2 7-foot gates. So talking about 6x6, if you can get steel posts, so I'm not super familiar with what's available where you are. If you could get a steel post, I would probably prefer something this wide, something that probably at least a 3-inch, maybe a 4-inch diameter steel post might be more appropriate. But if that's not available, the 6x6 are probably a good solution for you. Dave White's here with us. Now, Brad, let me introduce you to Dave White.
Okay, what's up, Dave?
So Dave is part of D&J. He is D&J Project. So him and his son go out. They have a YouTube channel where they just really is the Week in the Life video series. So, and they're a fairly big deal over in the UK. So we have them on the channel. And actually, Dave, I need to reach out to you guys and schedule another time for you guys to come on. It's been a minute. I'd like to talk to you guys, but you should check out, and you guys at home should check out D&J Projects.
Okay.
I legitimately enjoy watching them. They have some cool trucks over there in the UK. So, how do I describe this? So, I think like Isuzu NPR, or what's the other brand? Hino. Hino is a brand. Isn't that the brand that we were talking about? Where it's a cab over the front axle,
I was imagining.
Dump bed on the back, crane in the middle.
Okay.
Between cab chassis and dump bed, it's just they can grab with it. It's a crane. It's impressive. And apparently in the UK, they're like everywhere. And so I'm talking to them, they're like, oh yeah, everyone's got them. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I just don't know about these things here in the States. Not a thing. So I don't know if we got to import these things. So actually, the Hinos we were looking at had like a crane option or something. I don't know. Anyway, I watch them just to see what they're going to do with the truck. And actually, Dave's got a new truck. So I was just watching it. Anyway, not that I'm like fanboying over their channel, but I am a little bit, because it's really cool. You should check them out.
I love heavy equipment. Like, my background's in construction. And I remember when we would do big jobs and we'd rent like Lowell's or Manlius and stuff like that. Like, I just wanted to drive them and use them. I love trucks that have cool stuff like that. I'm just sitting here thinking, well, we got a property now. Maybe we need a truck with a grapple like that. I mean, surely I could use it somewhere in my life, right?
Well, let me tell you about some other things they've got. So they have this rock separator, and literally you just dump loads of dirt on it and it separates out. Now, I've seen these used on like large development sites, but they've got one. So sometimes I'll see it like in the thumbnail, and I'm watching that one for sure, because I want to see Stevie use that machine or whatever. What I feel like, so I get onto my daughter about watching channels with kids that play with toys that they want to play with. I'm like, what are you doing watching them? You could go do that. I feel like I'm that with their channel, with watching them with equipment. I'm like, hey, all right, let's watch the rock separator today. But anyway, Dave, hello. I'm so glad you got to join us. All right, Dave said, you heard it here. He's definitely ready for a live. I'm going to send you. So right now I'm traveling in the east part of the United States, but when I get back home, I'm going to WhatsApp you guys a link. Done. But you guys should check out D&J. They're legitimately a good channel. We're getting ready to wrap up. If you have any last minute questions or comments, drop them in the comments below. I always love to talk to you guys. If you don't have a chance to drop it in today, if you're watching this on the replay, we will start doing lives for the next 3 weeks following this week, if that makes sense. On Fridays, 2 p.m. Central. Technically, we're East Coast. 2 p.m. Central, we're doing the lives. So anyway, on the chemicals. So you guys sell them here locally. Is there any thought about selling them online? Yeah. Here's why I'm asking this is because I can't take that on the airplane. So like the truck wash.
You'd probably get in trouble if you took $250 on the airplane.
They're not, that would be a long explanation, and I'm just would rather not. And I don't want to put it like in my checked baggage, because then it might like get all over. Anyway, how can I order from you in Missouri? Is there a way to do that now?
Yeah, so that is one of the projects that's in the near
Okay.
term works. I had hoped to announce it at the show that we had our e-com live, but we're kind of working out the last pieces of our solutions because, as you know, a lot of moving parts.
You don't want to rush that. Believe me, you do not want to rush it.
We just switched some of our computer systems this week here in the shop.
Yeah.
And I'd say if you watch our space, the next. And goodness, I can feel the people that are going to get upset.
Near future.
In the near future. Because I love giving dates. And then the rest of the people have to be responsible, you know.
Right.
I'm just thinking of Nikki coming in here and like throwing things at me.
That's why I said, dude, because I'm close to you right now. So I'm like, let's be safe. Let's not make her mad.
Very near future.
Okay. I appreciate that. Because like I said, we've got a small fleet of trucks there at the office that always seem to stay dirty. I don't know how that works.
Well, I'll send you some 704 in the
meantime. Well, I appreciate that for sure. How can people get in touch with TChem? How can people get in touch with you?
Well, you can always check out our website. It's ever evolving and changing. TChem IS. So TChem Industrial Services. Gotcha. TChemIS.com. Please and follow us on social. Follow us on Facebook. We'd love to put out content. We've just partnered with a podcast in our space, the Under Pressure Podcast. So
that's right.
Jake's probably here meandering around somewhere. He's been hanging out.
He was here until we talked about going live shortly, and then he skedaddled.
I don't know what that is about going live.
Everyone sees the lights and they're like, I'm not doing that right now.
So we're partnering with that. So we got a fun podcast. It's gonna be just like
that's the Under Pressure Podcast.
The Under Pressure Podcast.
Very good.
It's funny when we started it, the whole idea was we wanted to get the licensing rights for Under Pressure. And I've got a contact. A friend of mine is a friend of Vanilla Ice, owns the rights to that song.
Yeah, right.
So we've been working on that because I just like, if we could just have that jingle, it'd be so cool. Bring Jake.
Bring Jake.
Yeah. So anyway, we have that podcast coming up. We'd love to put out content. We're going to be doing more shows. So
fantastic.
Even if you're in the fencing industry and you're like, I'll do pressure washers, we'd love to have you come to our show. We're sharing business advice.
It's the 80-20, right? So the 20% that is power washing might not be relatable, but the 80% that is business, absolutely relatable. I mean, I love coming to these events because I always take nuggets out from here, there, and everywhere. I mean, Pat was talking about sales. Now, as it relates to power washing, cleaning, that sort of thing, but I sat there and was taking notes on the fencing side. Like, what can we do in the fencing sales side to be better about it? Jay, come on up. We were just talking about the Under Pressure Podcast, and we knew you were close by. So it's kind of like the Beetlejuice. If you say their name enough, they show up. Luckily.
Good to see you, Brad.
Yeah, man.
Tell us real quick about the Under Pressure Podcast. We were just talking about it.
It's a podcast for the pressure washing industry, but really, this stuff works for all home service industries. It's just bringing on experts. I'm not the experts. I ask the questions. It's bringing on experts like these guys right here to really tell you not just how to run your business more efficiently, but how to grow the business. It's the business side of these industries. And, we just bring these experts on, say, what's your story? How do you do what you're doing? How do you grow a business? It's not about the technical aspects.
Right.
I don't know, what equipment to use, what chemicals to use to do the best job. But what I do know is the questions to ask to get guys like you to share the information on, hey, how can I do it better? How can I run my business better?
A great example was the panel you put together 2 nights ago, or that you led MC 2 nights ago, because you had power washers, you had Matt Warner with Empire Netting was there. I was there. Caleb was there on the things. So you had a group of individuals really from all different industries that were somewhat related, but not really related. But the questions that were asked were, when do I hire my first employee? Okay, well, that can apply to really any home service that's kind of craftsman related, right? Because we see this a lot in fencing, but also in power washing. The gentleman or the lady starts out as nights and weekends and starting out on their own, and then they go to sleep one night, they wake up as 2 years later, and they've got a few helpers, and this thing has grown beyond their wildest dreams. And now they're trying to figure out, what do I do? Where do I go? And I think that applies across the board. So plug for the Under Pressure podcast because you guys are talking to a lot of these professionals that the subject matter applies really to anybody.
Yeah. And if what I can do is just at least cut down on that learning curve of,
Right.
like you're just saying,
Right.
someone who's a technician, they love their home service. They love, what they're doing. They know that they can make a living from it, but they're in that position where now it's a business. How do I grow this business? I don't know. If
Right.
I can get guys like you on who can teach them how to cut down that learning curve and just be off to the races, listening to guys like that, like take advantage of that. Listen to podcasts, lives like this, so you can cut down that learning curve, get ahead of it, and really just put rocket fuel in your business.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Listen to the guys that have done it before.
You can see why we partnered with this guy.
I love it. I love it so much. Let's check in really quick because I saw a few more. We know this lady, Ashley Roth. Hello, Ashley. How
What's
are
up,
you?
Ashley?
Thank you so much for sending your folks over and keeping control of the house while Caleb was gone because I know, well, in my household, that is a full-time job. So
And we missed
Thank
you,
you.
Ashley. We missed
Yes.
having you there.
absolutely. Dave gives us the okay. Very good. I can't wait. Roger says, I'm looking forward to doing a live with Joe in 2023. Let's make that. Roger, how do we make that happen? I'm in for it. Let's do it. All right, guys. It's about 7. In true fashion, I was like, we're only doing it for an hour. So, and now we're 7 minutes over the hour. So I feel like I put times in place just simply to go past them for a little while. I don't know. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you guys so much for opening up the showroom and giving us a place to do the live.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me in the future on the podcast. We're setting that up.
Come check that out. He's going to be on. It's going to be an amazing episode. I cannot wait to pick your mind, pick your brain.
I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're watching this as a recorded episode, leave us a comment below. Let me know any questions or comments you guys have. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much. This was part of a live that you can find on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Joe Everest. Is that right?
Sure.
I feel like that's right.
It is.
If you search Joe Everest Fence on YouTube, you'll find me. I'd love to see you guys in the comment section. Guys, until next time, I'm Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors. I'll see you guys next time.